Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Boxer, the technical trader at thetechtrader.com. It's Tuesday, February 5th. These are the charts of the day. Pretty good day on Wall Street. Not the biggest day technically. Advanced declines were solid, but only 2 to 1 or so. And a lot of stocks that we follow, and I mean a lot, are moving, breaking out, coming through bases to declining tops lines, moving averages. So we'll see. I mean, they're starting to get it to the point now where some low-price speculative stocks are moving. And that usually happens at the tail end of a move, so got to be careful up here, okay? But I do want to point out some stuff and take a look at some stocks that are having, looks like potentially breakout patterns or could be emerging. AGX is an example. Take a look at a stock with a massive 5-wave move from 2010 and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave move. This is a large 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if you interpret it that way. Monster move that took it 11-fold from 7 to 76. It then came down hard, did a Fibonacci retracement, 50% retrace, and then formed a large base pattern. Over the last year, today a breakaway gap above the moving average and right to resistance has this stock poised to explode. And today was a move of 579 or 14% on 500,000 shares, which is a lot of volume for that stock. If it pops the November high, that was 47.5, and today's high was 47.54. If it does that, this stock could run into perhaps the low to mid 50s and then high 50s. ALLT had a big day too. You can see that this also had a big base pattern over the last couple of years, actually. It's almost 3 years now. And it finally broke out in mid-year last year and then popped. But when the market took a dive, that thing got hit, came right back to near this line, a little bit below support and reversed. But this has moved from 566 to almost 8 here. And there's a resistance zone up here. Now, if it does get through that zone, the next targets are 9.5 and then 12. I'd like to see if it sets up or just plows through it. Today was an important day with a breakaway gap and almost a 10% gain. Keep an eye on ALLT, a lot of communications. Amyris, well, you know, this was a favorite of mine in here. It did well for a while and then collapsed on a bad report. I think it was the earnings report in November. After that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave decline and a really steep declining angle, today was a major breakaway move that took out 3 moving averages, a declining tops line, and a couple lateral resistance lines as well into this gap here. It actually filled the gap to 630. Today's high, not quite filled it totally. The low here was, 582, and today's high was 584. So it exactly filled the gap and then backed off. Worst case scenario, I think it backs and fills and sets us up over the next week, 2 or 3, and then moves to 7, and maybe even a 9. Those are my targets. I put a swing on it today because of the thrust, and it was a little earlier in the session near the 4 3/4 range of 465. So I think it was 488, yeah. So it did pop a bit, and let's see if we get a follow through. AQUA, a nice move today, took out the base this week. It's been up 5 days in a row. Today spiked to the gap. That gap is 1227, today's high, 1246, so, and it closed at 1214. So either it spikes up here and gets into that 14 range, or it's going to back and fill and set us up for a move, but it looks like a completed base. As does ARRY, which popped the base, consolidated, and exploded through the June high for the highest level we've seen in this stock. ARRY. Going way back. And this is a new all-time high. Now I'm looking for a move to 23 and 26 going forward. Nice day today, up 207 or 11%. WORX, what a move in the last few days. Literally from the base when it broke out, it went vertical from 1963 to nearly 23.68. And there is resistance at about 24.40, so that would be my next scalp target, followed by 26, 27, etc. It might at some point make a move into the high 20s. I like the look of that base, the double bottom, the breakout, etc. BRFS, I've been talking about this over the last few weeks on the weekend webinars, that it's had a nice coiling base pattern. It broke out, retested, it popped, formed a wedge, and today that wedge broke out with a gap. I'm now looking for 7.5, 8.25, and then we'll see what happens beyond that. But it looks like this base is completed. CDXS. Well, it's been in a beautiful rising channel all year, and if it wasn't for this December sharp pullback below the moving averages, it might have been one of my picks for the year. Anyway, beautiful recovery, 15.25 to 21.5. Today was up another $1.19 or 6%. I think it's going to take out the 23 range and run up towards 27, 7.5. Beautiful channel. EGO, like this junior gold popped the other day, if you remember. We day traded it. And then popped and stalled for a couple of days and consolidated today, broke out. Minor resistance at 440. I think the stock goes to near 5 and then 5.75. EOLS, spectacular session. Now, as you remember, we gave you a swing a week ago at 1590. The stock reached 2637. Well, that's a nice day. Swing trade, I'd say. And today in particular was a great day trade. If you look at the 1 minute chart, let's take a look at it. How that stock ramped, ran, consolidated. It's actually, if you look at this a different way, it was a beautiful wedge pattern that consolidated the run up from here, set it up for a nice pop, and when it broke out with big volume, it just ran up sharply. But in the overall picture and scope of things, you can see this closing at the upper end of the range on monster volume. I think it's going to send this stock higher. First target for me is 29. Second target is 35. HEAR, well, one of our old favorites, one of the biggest winners of the year. This, though, we got it into it at 17, ran it to 34 for a double. It came down hard. It's spaced out nicely. Keep an eye on this one. Today, it's been up for 5 days in a row. Today jumped another $1.09 or 7%. What I really want to see is to get this through 18. Then you're on your way to 22, 25.5, and maybe 30, 35 at some point. But let's start off with seeing if we can break this base. Horizon popped and went through the prior high and closed right there at 23.23, up 69 cents. So 3%. Not a big deal today, but if you look at the overall trend, you'll see the pattern is very powerful. The target's 26.75 and then 30. LCI. Well, this swing trade popped and then pulled back in December with the rest of the market, and then exploded from 4.25 to 8.5. Almost, it's a double here, folks. And just recently platformed for 3-4 weeks, and it's breaking out again. I'm looking for around a 10-11 zone on my next target. LSCC. Well, looking at the overall structure of this pattern, and talking to some institutional clients of mine that done their homework, it's a nice particular junior semiconductor with some terrific new management and some products that are solid. But more importantly, technically, that's all I care about. We have a massive inverse head and shoulders with a couple retests in this zone here. You can see it held the 3.5 range, and now it's moved up to resistance. Now the high 5 years ago was 1919. The high last year was 890. So in that 890, 920 zone is where I think resistance is going to be taken out. You can see the way it's acted recently. I think if the stock takes that out, it's headed for about 11. And beyond that, I'm looking for 14, and then we'll see what happens beyond that. Nectar, I think it's about to go. Let's take a look at this. A nice, long declining channel. It's taking it from the, I mean, literally, this is one of our biggest winners of the year. Some of you may recall, I put a swing on it about 24.75, and it ran to 111. It came down all the way back down to 30 some odd. It actually got below 30 to 29 and change. Yeah. 29.22 is the low. It then ran up nicely to 46 for a 17-point pop. This pullback is rather muted and very orderly. It looks like a nice flag. It held support. It held the trend line. Today it popped. To me, it might be the beginning, just like this was. I think this is the beginning of a move that's going to take Nectar to probably, well, if it gets to 48, I'm looking at low to mid 50s and maybe even 60 at some point. But I'm going to add 16 points onto the pullback low. And my target is going to be 58. That would be right in that zone up there. Rocket, look at this beautiful inverse head and shoulders. This is like a textbook pattern. A perfect orderly decline, a spike off the low, got up to resistance and backed off and had a nice symmetrical left shoulder, head, right shoulder type pattern, which calls for a move. If you measure the head to the neckline, that's standard, 10.75 to about 16.75. It's about 6 points. Add that on to 16, you got about 23 in that zone. I'm looking for 21.5 and then 26 eventually. The measured move calls for a little higher than that. But it's a really nice looking pattern, and I believe this is recovering. Once you get that breakout above today's high, 1640.50, that's where I think it can really take off. SHSP finally got the pop out after 6 months of consolidation after a beautiful run up. My belief is that this goes higher into the 1920 zone and eventually mid-20s. TMSR, I want to show you the pop in this one. Explodes from $1.25 to 9.5 in 2 days. Amazing. Pulls back, stalls, and today popped 64 cents or 14%. Now, it's a low price cheapie, and there's lots of spikes up here. Not easy to read, but I think that any stock that pops and pulls back and starts to go that quickly may have some more upside. I'm looking for 8.75 to 9.5 on this one. WORX also exploded out of nowhere. It's thin, but it traded 2 million today, breaking the 2-year declining topsline and running up to resistance at the spike high from August when it hit 1178. Today's high, 1139. If we can get to that zone, we're looking for 17, folks. So it's a very speculative stock. Let's keep an eye on it. XBIT finally is still running from the September low at 215, gotten all the way up to 8.5. 890 was the high today. There's resistance at the gap, and that's my target, about 11.5, 3/4. That's what I'm looking for on a follow-through. And that's it for tonight, everybody. Have a good evening.